My name is Sarah. I am 38 years old. I have a husband who builds toys with his rough hands and an ex-lover who builds empires with his lies. For 10 years, I lived a quiet life, hiding a secret that I knew could destroy us all. I thought the billionaire came back to save our daughter's life, but I was wrong. He came back for a photo opportunity, and one DNA test changed everything. To understand why I lied, you have to go back 10 years. I was 28 years old, and I was working as an assistant for Julian Blackwood. I thought I was in love, but the moment I told him I was pregnant, the mask fell off. He didn't smile. He didn't hug me. He stood up and threw an envelope of money onto the desk. "Get rid of it," he said coldly. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. "No," I whispered. "I'm keeping the baby." Julian's eyes turned dark. He walked closer to me, his voice low and dangerous. "If you ruin my image with a scandal," he threatened, "my lawyers will take the child away from you. I have millions, Sarah. You have nothing. Who do you think the judge will believe?" I felt a cold terror grip my heart. I knew he wasn't joking. I knew he would take my baby just to win. So, I ran. I moved to a small town where nobody knew my name. That is where I met Tom. Tom was the opposite of Julian. He was a carpenter. He didn't have expensive suits or a big office. He had rough hands and clothes that smelled of sawdust. But he had the kindest eyes I had ever seen. When he found out I was pregnant and alone, he didn't judge me. He stayed. I remember one evening in our small, dusty garage. Tom was working late. He was carving a piece of wood. He spent weeks shaping it, sanding it until it was smooth as silk. It was a wooden horse for Lily. I watched him wipe the sweat from his forehead. He looked tired, but he was smiling. He never told me, but I knew his secret sacrifices. I saw him skip lunch every day to save $5. I saw him wear work boots with holes in the bottom just so he could buy Lily a new storybook. He gave everything he had, even when he had nothing. I thought money was power, but then I saw Tom holding Lily, rocking her to sleep with his calloused hands, and I realized that a real father isn't the one who pays the bills. It is the one who pays attention. Our perfect little life didn't break all at once. It cracked slowly, like a window hit by a small stone. It started on a regular Tuesday afternoon. Lily came home from school early. She walked slowly, dragging her feet. Her backpack looked too heavy for her small shoulders. "I'm tired, Mommy," she said. Her voice was quiet. She didn't run to her room like usual. She didn't ask for a snack. She just lay down on the sofa and closed her eyes. I thought it was just the flu. "Rest, sweetie," I said, covering her with a blanket. "You will feel better tomorrow." But she didn't feel better. The next day, I noticed the marks. I was helping her change into her pajamas when I saw them. There were small, purple bruises on her legs. They looked like dark clouds on her pale skin. "Did you fall at school?" I asked. "No," she whispered. "I don't remember." Tom came home late that night. He was covered in dust from the workshop. I showed him the bruises. He frowned. He touched her forehead gently. "Maybe she needs vitamins," he said. "We can buy some tomorrow." We checked our bank account. We didn't have much extra money that month, but we had enough for medicine. I told myself we were in control. I told myself parents worry too much. We took her to the local clinic the next morning. The doctor was a kind, older man. He checked her throat. He listened to her heart. He smiled at us. "She is a growing girl," he said. "It looks like a mild infection or maybe anemia. Nothing to worry about." He gave us a prescription for some iron supplements. I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. I looked at Tom and smiled. He squeezed my hand. "See?" he said. "She's tough, like her dad." We went home feeling light. That night, we had a special dinner. I cooked Lily's favorite pasta. Tom made silly jokes to make her laugh. Lily smiled, though she looked a bit pale. The house was warm. The kitchen smelled of garlic and happiness. I truly believed everything would be okay. I whispered to myself, "We are lucky. We are safe. But luck is a fragile thing." 3 days later, the storm hit us. It was a Saturday morning. Lily was sitting at the kitchen table, coloring in her book. Suddenly, she dropped her crayon. "Mommy," she said. Her voice sounded strange, wet. I turned around from the sink. Blood was pouring from her nose. It wasn't just a few drops. It was a stream. It covered her chin, her shirt, the table. "Lily!" I screamed. I grabbed a towel and pressed it to her nose. "Head back, sweetie, head back!" I cried. But the blood didn't stop. The white towel turned red in seconds. Then, her eyes rolled back. She collapsed into my arms. She was so heavy and so still. "Tom!" I screamed. "Tom!" Tom rushed in from the garage. He saw the blood. He saw his little girl limp in my arms. His face went white. He didn't ask questions. He scooped her up and ran to the car. I followed, my hands shaking so hard I couldn't open the door at first. The drive to the hospital was a blur of red lights and fear. I felt like my heart had stopped beating. We waited in the emergency room for 4 hours. Every minute felt like a year. Finally, a specialist came out. He wasn't smiling like the first doctor. He asked us to sit down. "We ran some blood tests," he said. His voice was low. He used words I didn't want to understand. White blood cell count, platelets, bone marrow. Then he dropped the word that destroyed our world. "Leukemia. It was an aggressive type. She needs treatment immediately," he said. "Chemotherapy starts tonight." He talked about the costs. He talked about the hospital stay. I couldn't hear him anymore. There was a ringing in my ears. I looked at Tom. He was staring at the wall. He looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. Later that night, we sat in the hallway. Tom took out his wallet. It was thin and worn out. He looked at the papers the hospital gave us. The numbers were huge. "I don't have it, Sarah," he whispered. "I don't have enough." He stood up and paced back and forth. He ran his hands through his hair. Then he stopped and looked at me. His eyes were desperate. "I will sell the truck," he said. "Tom, no," I said. "You need the truck for work." "I will sell my tools," he continued. "The saws, the drills, everything. I can get good money for the vintage planer." He was talking fast, trying to fix the unfixable. "But that is your life, Tom," I said, grabbing his arm. "That is your grandfather's tool set. You love them." "I love her more," he shouted. His voice cracked. He leaned against the wall and slid down to the floor. He buried his face in his hands. I saw his shoulders shaking. He was crying. My strong, steady Tom was breaking. I felt a wave of guilt wash over me, cold and sharp. I knew that selling the tools wouldn't be enough. I knew that money wasn't the only thing we needed. But we couldn't fall apart yet, not in front of Lily. Later that night, the hospital room was quiet. The machines beeped softly. Beep, beep, beep. Lily was asleep in the big white bed. She looked so small. Tom pulled a chair next to her. He didn't talk about the tools anymore. He didn't talk about the money. He took an apple from his bag and a small pocket knife. Slowly, carefully, He started to peel the apple for her, just in case she woke up hungry. He peeled it in one long, perfect strip. He focused on the apple like it was the most important job in the world. His hands were steady again. He placed the apple slices in a bowl next to her bed. Then he took her small hand in his rough, calloused hand. He just held it. He sat there for hours, watching her chest rise and fall. I watched him from the corner of the room. The room was peaceful. For a moment, the fear paused. We were just a family in a quiet room. We just watched her sleep. But silence doesn't stop a storm. I looked at Lily's pale face, and then at Tom's tired eyes. I whispered to myself, "Please, let the chemotherapy work." I thought the money was the hardest part. I thought the diagnosis was the worst news. But I was wrong. I didn't know that the hardest choice was still waiting for me. I didn't know that the medicine wouldn't be enough. And I didn't know that to save her, I would have to break Tom's heart completely. Then one Tuesday, the doctor called us into his office. He didn't ask us to sit down. He stood by the window, looking grim. His face was pale. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. "The chemotherapy is not working fast enough," the doctor said. "Lily needs a bone marrow transplant. It is her best chance." Tom stood up immediately. "Take mine," he said. "I'm her dad. Take whatever you need. My blood, my marrow, anything." The doctor sighed and looked at his clipboard. "We ran a preliminary screening on your blood type, Mr. Miller," he said gently. "The genetic markers, they are very different from Lily's." "What does that mean?" Tom asked. "It means the chance of you being a match is extremely low," the doctor explained carefully. "Usually, a parent is at least a 50% match. Your markers do not match hers at all." The room went silent. The doctor adjusted his glasses. "Medically speaking, this is unusual for a biological father. To be sure we don't waste time finding a donor, I strongly recommend a DNA test. We need to know who the genetic parents are to find the right match." Tom looked at the doctor, then at me. His eyes were full of confusion. "Do the test," Tom said confidently. "Prove that I'm her father." I felt like I couldn't breathe. I wanted to stop him, but I knew it was too late. We waited for 24 hours. It felt like 24 years. The next morning, the doctor put a piece of paper on the desk. He didn't smile. "I'm sorry," the doctor said. "Tom, the results confirm it. You are not the biological father." The silence in the room was deafening. It was louder than any scream. Tom didn't yell. He didn't throw the chair. He just sat there, staring at the floor. I saw the color drain from his face. He looked like a statue that was crumbling from the inside. "Sarah?" he whispered. His voice cracked. I couldn't look him in the eye. My hands were shaking uncontrollably. "Who?" he asked. "Who is he?" I closed my eyes and took a deep, shaky breath. "It's Julian Blackwood," I whispered. "The billionaire." Tom looked up. His eyes were red. The trust in them was gone. "You lied to me?" he said softly. "For 10 years? Every birthday? Every Christmas?" He stopped. He couldn't finish the sentence. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was the ticking of the clock on the wall. Tom looked at his hands, the hands that built Lily's crib, the hands that peeled her apples. He took a deep breath, fighting back tears. He stood up slowly. He didn't look at me. He looked at the door. "Call him," Tom said coldly. "Save my daughter." I felt my heart break into a million pieces. I knew I had saved her chance at life, but I had lost him. Now, I had to face the monster I ran away from 10 years ago. I didn't want to make the call, but when you watch your child fading away, pride doesn't matter anymore. I managed to get a meeting with Julian only because I mentioned the DNA test. I walked into his massive glass office in the city center. Julian looked stressed. He wasn't the calm, confident man I remembered. His assistant was reading headlines from a tablet. Julian Blackwood, the coldest CEO in tech. Employees protest unfair wages. His reputation was in the trash. When I told him about Lily, he didn't show any emotion. He checked his watch. "I don't have time for this, Sarah," he said coldly. "I can't donate marrow. I have a company to save." "She will die without a donor," I begged. "You have the money to find a match. You are her father." "I am a stranger," he corrected me, "and I am busy." I turned to leave, hopeless. I felt the tears stinging my eyes. "Wait," his personal assistant said. She leaned in and whispered in Julian's ear. I heard words like redemption arc, hero, and stock market. She showed him a graph on the tablet. Julian listened. His eyes narrowed. He looked at me, then back at the graph. Then he smiled. It was a fake smile. It didn't reach his eyes. "Fine," he said. "I will help." "You will?" I asked, breathless. "I will pay to find the best donor in the world," he said. "We will fly them here. But publicly? Publicly, I am the hero. I am the father who saved her." He stood up and walked to the window. "But I have conditions," he added. "Anything?" I said. "This will be a media event," Julian said. "Cameras will document the reunion. Cameras will act as witnesses to my kindness, and she must take my last name. For the press, she is Lily Blackwood." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. He wanted to use our dying daughter as a marketing tool. "She has a father," I said, my voice shaking. "His name is Tom." "Can Tom pay for the international donor search?" Julian asked smoothly. "Can Tom save her life?" I stayed silent. I knew the answer. "Take the deal, Sarah," he said, "or walk away." I signed the papers. I felt like I was selling my soul to the devil to save an angel. The next few weeks were a nightmare disguised as a dream. Julian kept his word. He found a donor from Europe, but he also turned the hospital into a movie set. He made a large donation to the hospital wing so they would allow him to film. They moved Lily to a VIP suite. It looked more like a hotel than a hospital. On the day of the transplant recovery, Julian arrived with a camera crew. "Action!" the director yelled. Julian sat by Lily's bed. He held her small, pale hand. He looked sad. He looked concerned. He looked perfect. "You are so brave, my little girl," he said for the camera. Lily looked confused. She was weak from the medicine. "Where is Daddy Tom?" she whispered. "Cut!" Julian yelled. He immediately let go of her hand. He took a wet wipe from his pocket and cleaned his fingers, as if Lily was dirty. "Can we keep the carpenter out of the conversation?" he snapped at me. "It ruins the narrative." I stood in the corner, biting my lip to keep from screaming. Outside the VIP room, it was worse. Tom was standing in the corridor. He tried to open the door, but a large security guard blocked his path. "Family only," the guard said. "I am her family," Tom shouted. "Not on the list," the guard replied. Tom stood by the window. He was wearing his old work clothes. He watched a stranger pretend to love his daughter. I saw him press his hand against the glass. He looked so small. He looked so defeated. Tom took a deep breath and leaned his forehead against the cold window, closing his eyes in silent pain. Lily recovered. The donor marrow worked. But Julian wasn't done. He needed a grand finale. To celebrate and to maximize the publicity, Julian organized a massive press conference. It wasn't in the lobby. It was in the hospital's beautiful courtyard garden. There was a stage, a podium, and hundreds of reporters. Julian wanted to introduce Lily Blackwood to the world. They dressed Lily in a fancy, expensive dress. It was stiff and scratchy. I stood to the side. Tom stood at the very back of the crowd, hidden in the shadows. Julian took the microphone. The cameras flashed like lightning. "Today I present to you my greatest achievement," Julian announced. "My daughter, Lily Blackwood." The crowd cheered. "And to welcome her into the family," Julian smiled, "I have a special gift." From the side of the garden, a handler walked out with a real, live pony. It was white with a golden bridle. The reporters gasped. "Flash! Flash! Flash! A pony for a princess," Julian declared. "Come here, Lily. Give Daddy a hug for the cameras." This was the moment. The photo that would save his company. Lily stared at the pony. It was big. It snorted loudly. She took a step back. She was scared. "It's okay," Julian whispered harshly, leaning down. "Just smile and hold the reins." "I don't want it," Lily whispered. "What?" Julian hissed. His smile faltered. "I don't want the pony," Lily said louder. She looked out into the crowd of strangers. She saw the cameras. She saw the flashing lights. She saw the cold smile of the billionaire. Then she looked past them. Standing at the back, behind the reporters, was Tom. He was holding a small, brown paper bag. He wasn't smiling. He was just watching her, ready to catch her if she fell. Lily didn't care about the script. She didn't care about the cameras. She ran. She ran past Julian. She ran past the expensive pony. "Lily, come back here," Julian shouted, forgetting to be nice. Lily ran straight through the crowd and threw herself into Tom's arms. "Daddy," she sobbed. Tom fell to his knees and hugged her tightly. He buried his face in her neck. The cameras turned. They captured the image of the billionaire standing alone with a pony, looking angry, and the carpenter holding the little girl, looking like he held the whole world. Lily pulled back and wiped her tears. "Did you bring it?" she asked. Tom nodded. His hands were shaking as he opened the paper bag. He pulled out the small wooden horse. It wasn't expensive. It was carved from cheap wood, but it was smooth, polished, and made with love. Lily grabbed it. She turned to the cameras and held it up high. I watched her face transform from fear to pride. "I don't want his pony," Lily shouted to the world. "I want my dad. He made this with his hands," I whispered to myself. She chose. She finally chose. The garden went silent, save for the sound of the wind in the trees and the frantic clicking of cameras capturing the truth. The cameras didn't stop recording. They zoomed in on Tom and Lily hugging in the grass. Julian stood alone on the stage. The expensive pony looked confused next to him. For a few seconds, nobody moved. The only sound was the clicking of the cameras. Julian looked at the red light on the main camera. Then he looked at the reporters, who were whispering and pointing at him. I saw the panic in his eyes. I knew that he realized the script was broken. The world wasn't seeing a hero. The world was seeing a businessman trying to buy a child's love. His face turned a deep, ugly red. The perfect mask cracked. "Cut the feed!" Julian shouted. His voice was loud and harsh. It echoed off the hospital walls. He threw his microphone onto the ground. Thud. "Turn off the cameras. We are done here." He didn't sound like a loving father anymore. He sounded like a spoiled child who lost a game. He glared at the camera crew. He pointed a shaking finger at them. "Delete that footage!" he screamed. "Delete it right now!" But the cameramen didn't stop. They kept filming his tantrum. I saw the reporters typing furiously on their phones. I knew it was too late. The live stream was already out. Millions of people saw his anger. Millions of people saw his true colors. Julian looked at Lily one last time. He didn't check if she was okay. He didn't say goodbye. He looked at her with cold eyes, like she was a broken toy that he couldn't sell. He turned his back on us. He stormed out of the garden, his assistants running after him to catch up. "Get the car, now!" he yelled as he disappeared through the hospital doors. He left as quickly as he came. He left his daughter behind without a second glance. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, cool and refreshing. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with the air that suddenly felt lighter. The reporters realized the show was over. Slowly, they packed up their equipment. The bright lights turned off. The handler led the white pony away. The garden became quiet again. The chaos of the PR stunt faded into silence. I whispered to myself, "He is gone. He is really gone." There were no more scripts, no more lies. It was just the wind in the trees and the three of us standing on the grass. We were safe. The hospital garden was finally quiet. The noise of the cameras was gone. The fake smiles were gone. It was just the three of us standing on the green grass. The sun was starting to set, casting a soft, golden light over everything. I stood there for a moment, just watching them. Tom was holding Lily. She was resting her head on his shoulder, holding the wooden horse tight against her chest. I felt a lump form in my throat. I walked slowly toward them. My legs felt heavy. I was afraid to look Tom in the eye. I thought he would be angry. I thought he would tell me to leave. But when he looked up, his eyes were not angry. They were tired, yes, but they were kind. They were the same eyes that looked at me with love 10 years ago in that coffee shop. Tears ran down my face. I couldn't stop them. "I am so sorry, Tom," I whispered. My voice was shaking. "I lied to you. I hurt you." I took a step closer, wiping my wet cheeks. "I was so scared of losing her," I sobbed. "I was so scared that I almost lost you." Tom didn't say a word. He didn't shout. He didn't ask for explanations. He just opened his arm. He pulled me close. He held both of us, his wife and his daughter, in a tight, warm hug. I felt his heart beating against my ear. It was a steady, strong rhythm. It was the sound of safety. We stood there for a long time, just breathing together. I felt the cold fear of the last few weeks melt away. Tom pulled back slightly and looked at me. He reached out and wiped a tear from my chin with his rough thumb. Then, he looked at the small wooden horse in Lily's hand. "We are not rich, Sarah," he said softly. "We don't have ponies. We don't have mansions. We never will." He kissed my forehead. "But we are real," he said, "and that is enough." Lily looked up at him and smiled. "I love you, Daddy," she said. "I love you too, Peanut," he replied. He looked at the hospital exit. "Let's go home," he said. We walked out of the gates together. We didn't have a limousine waiting for us. We had Tom's old, rusty truck. But as I climbed inside and heard the engine start, I knew I was exactly where I belonged. We were safe. We were together. And we were going home. Months passed. The cold winter slowly turned into a warm, bright spring. Lily recovered completely. Her hair grew back, thick and curly. The pink color returned to her cheeks. She wasn't the pale ghost in the hospital bed anymore. She was a child again, running, jumping, and laughing. We never heard from Julian Blackwood again. The newspapers said he moved to another country to hide from the scandal. He took his money and his cameras with him. We didn't care. We were still poor. We still drove the old, rusty truck with the noisy engine. Tom still worked long hours in the dusty workshop, his hands covered in sawdust. We were still paying off the medical bills, dollar by dollar. But the air in our house felt different now. It felt lighter. I felt a deep sense of peace that I hadn't felt in 10 years. One sunny afternoon, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea. I watched them in the garden. Tom and Lily were sitting on the grass. They were fixing the wooden horse. The old paint had chipped off, so they were giving it a new coat of bright red. Tom held the brush, and Lily guided his hand. There was a smudge of red paint on Tom's nose. Lily was laughing so hard she was holding her stomach. Tom was laughing too, a deep, happy sound that echoed in the yard. I took a deep breath, smelling the fresh grass and the paint. I knew then that I had made the right choice. I whispered to myself, "We don't have the castle, but we have the kingdom." We had each other, and that was the only wealth that mattered. That year, I learned the most important lesson of my life. I used to think that a father was defined by blood. I thought biology was a bond that could not be broken. But I was wrong. Julian had the DNA, but he was a stranger. Tom had no blood connection, yet he was the truest parent I have ever known. A father is not the man who uses you for a photo. A father is the man who holds your hand when the cameras are off. He is the one who stays when things get hard. True wealth is not in your bank account. It is in the people who love you. Love is action, not DNA. We often think these stories only happen in movies, but the truth is, we live in a world of filters and followers. Like Julian, many people today chase the perfect image. We scroll through our phones and see happy families, expensive gifts, and perfect smiles. It is easy to believe that this is what love looks like. But this story teaches us a crucial lesson about authenticity. Do not let the screen fool you. Real love is rarely flashy. It does not need an audience, a hashtag, or a camera crew. True connection is often quiet. It is messy. It happens when no one is watching. It is the person who peels an apple for you when you are too weak to eat. We also learn the value of privacy. In a digital age where everyone shares everything, protecting your loved ones is the highest form of care. Julian wanted to expose Lily to the world for his own gain. Tom wanted to hide her to keep her safe. Remember this: if someone truly loves you, they will respect your boundaries. They will protect your peace, not sell your pain. So, take a moment to look at the people in your life today. Cherish the people who show up when you are sick, not just when you are winning. Value the hands that build, not just the hands that buy. Now, I have a question for you. Have you ever chosen a simple gift made with love over an expensive one? Tell me your story in the comments below. If you believe in real love, please like this video and subscribe to Peak English Stories. See you in the next story.